Gotta learn to swim in your calm drown. People think I'm riding high, but I feel so low. I try to be a good
Check
man.
1 2. Check 1 2. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Stadium Pulse. It is a beautiful October 21st, 2025. Or it's October 20th. I can't even get that right. We're going to fix the title real quick. Can't even get the damn date correct. What a start to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We have a fantastic, a loaded show, whatever you want to call it. We have plenty of things to talk about. What a college football Saturday it was. We're talking about upset after upset after upset, banger after banger after banger. Shout out to Seamus. We have a lot of positive and negative things to talk about, depending on who is your favorite team in college football right now. We have a lot of hot seat talk. As unfortunate as it is, these are, at the end of the day, human lives. Yes, you could do the whole song and dance about, well, they make X amount of money. Should they really be that upset? You know, why should we even feel bad for these people? They had an opportunity. It's the way the world goes. And there's some human elements that I think gets lost upon it. These are competitors at the end of the day. Now, I'm not caping for ex-coach getting fired, because we will have an honest and reasonable discussion about why an institution made the decision that they did. We know why Penn State did what they did. We have to talk about the other teams, but we also have a lot of different games that had meaningful impact to the rest of the college football season. So no better way to just dive on in. This is the Stadium Pulse, a college football show powered by Kretschmann Media. We will only do college football on this show. A little bit of NFL draft if that is a little bit of interest, but that's down the road. But if you like college football, it is year-round content. Rain, snow, shine, we are going to get you some college football content around here. So if you like that type of stuff, a big red button is going to give you more of that, and it's free. You don't have to do anything but click a button. With that in mind, let's go ahead and start. Apologies for the pause there, audio listeners. We're going to have some water here today throughout the show, because we're going to have a relatively longer than usual show. And also, apologies, this is traditionally on Sunday, but due to complications, we had to do it on Monday. Billy Napier is officially out as the head coach at Florida. Now, this shouldn't come to much of a surprise if you've been following college football for quite a long time. The writing's been on the wall for Florida, and I think regardless of the result on this Saturday, if they had blown out Mississippi State by 80, I still don't think Mississippi State was going to change what the result of this decision was, which was to move off of Billy Napier. We saw Jimbo Fisher get paid out for $50+ million when they beat Mississippi State. So it's a funny coincidence, but truly we were not going to see any difference of opinion of what Billy Napier is. And it turns out he is going to be let go. He had a 22-23 record at 4 seasons in Florida. We had a 5-17 ranked record. It was 6-7, 5-7, 8-5, and then 3-4. It's clear as day that Billy Napier, to me at least, if you really understood where the state of this university and this athletic department and this football program more specifically was when Dan Mullen left. He was not recruiting. He, at the root of this entire organization, had left it in a very bad place. And if there's one thing that Billy Napier can take away outside of the money and the buyout and all those different things, is he is leaving this football program in a much better spot than when he received the reins to take over. Now, unfortunate as it is, he wasn't good enough. Sometimes your best is not good enough. And there's a couple of different factors that I think weigh into the reason why Billy Napier did not work out at Florida. Number one, I think his reluctance or stubbornness to let go of play calling. He felt like if he was the one driving the ship, it's going to be on his shoulders for his downfall. He's going to take responsibility if it's for the reason that he is the offensive guy. And if they fail on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be on his shoulders. And he felt like he was the only one suited to make those key decisions. And I think that's what became his true downfall, because reports were coming out in the offseason just last year that frustration was being built in Billy Napier's lack of being open to other minds. And I think that's a critical thing when we're talking about either offensive coordinators or offensive minds. I think Steve Sarkisian's a great example here. He may benefit from having another voice in the room, another perspective in a lot of these decisions. And when you're the one taking over the reins at a large program like Florida, you could get a little bit of a tunnel vision. And I will say this, in 2025, I think it's less and less likely that we'll see a highly successful head coach also be a play caller, whether it's offense or defensive. I think you really need a CEO level type of head coach at the end of the day, especially with all the moving pieces. That's not to say we can't have success with a coach having an impact on the offense. I think Ryan Day obviously has his hands on the offense. Mike Elko has his hands on the defense, but not a true full-fledged play caller. And I also think Billy Napier did a great job in bringing in talent. Based on every report, it sounded like outside of what was happening on Saturdays, Florida was doing everything right. They were taking every ingredient that they've seen from the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States of the world, and being able to replicate it at Florida. The difference and the problem was truly from the fact that Florida is just not going to be good enough on Saturdays. And that goes back to the original point about the play calling, the execution. And even going into this season, I had questions about that. My number one hesitation around putting Florida in the top 10, because they were talented. They obviously can compete with virtually any talented program in the country. But my concern was, what's going to happen when we get into those critical decisions on Saturday? I still have those reservations with Miami and Mario Cristobal, which we saw come to life when we talk about the Friday game with Miami and Louisville, which we'll talk about that game later. And I think I have to give credit to Florida for at least giving him 4 years, because in the world of college football and where we currently stand, coaches usually do not get that much rope to work with. And he got the full opportunity. I really feel like, yes, you could look at, there's areas and moments that I'm sure if Billy Napier, you had him in a room and it was off the record, that he could tell you, I wish I did this different. I wish I didn't pull for this guy. I wish I would have let go of play calling. All these different factors, but you can't say that he didn't have time to at least make those decisions. They just ended up being the incorrect ones. But it's now time to turn to a new chapter, flip the page. We are done with the Billy Napier era. It felt like one of those NBA trade deadlines, or one of those players that is always in trade talks. It's always teetering. I think of it's like the Miles Turner theory. Funny enough, it actually happened. And if you don't know what I'm talking about a player that is in trade talks for every single season, but it's never actually done. We have been talking about Billy Napier potentially being fired for a very long time. He has been a part of hot seat talks for a very long time, and he was in a very difficult position because not only was he supposed to turn around this program, but it was against one of the most difficult schedules, or at least run of schedules over the past 2 years that I've seen in my entire life of being a college football fan. But as we close this chapter and look to the future, there's 3 names I want to talk about as potential candidates here, with a clear number 1 and a gap between everyone else. And I'm just naming 2 other ones for the sake of potential guys if number 1 says no. If you are Florida, your search starts and ends with Lane Kiffin. He's been the guy that you have been wanting for a long, long time. The theory with Lane Kiffin, as of right now, is that if you give Lane Kiffin more resources than what he has at Ole Miss, who he is taking Ole Miss to heights and consistency that they have not seen in a very long time, if ever, that if you give him more resources, the talent pool in the state of Florida, and the amount of money that can match anybody within the entire country, that he could go win you a national championship. He is the offensive guru that you thought you potentially were getting with Billy Napier. And it has been rumored for a long time. Now, Ole Miss fans will tell you this. He loves Ole Miss. His family loves Ole Miss. There's stories about how his family members have told him that, I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to stay within Ole Miss. I want you to be a part of this and create something at Ole Miss. And that Ole Miss arguably is a better job than Florida. And I think that's inherently wrong. I disagree that Florida is a worse job than Ole Miss. Florida is going to have more resources. They're going to have the better infrastructure. They're going to have more investment into football. If winning starts to arrive at Florida, you will realize the superpower and the amount of money that's invested into that program. Just because Ole Miss is having some success because of Lane Kiffin now does not mean Florida, who has been struggling, can't be a sleeping giant. I don't see a sleeping giant with Ole Miss. I see a program that is getting as much talent and juice squeezed out of it because of a guy like Lane Kiffin. Now, if Lane says no, because he's well within his right, and part of this to consider, part of the timelines that we have to consider here, Ole Miss looks primed for a college football playoff spot. Their schedule allows for that. If they were to go to a college football playoff, that extends your timelines. When this season ends, when the regular season ends, they don't make a bowl. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. It really doesn't matter when you are changing the hands and going to a new head coach in a new era of Florida football. You want as much time as possible to focus on the transfer portal with guys like Jaden Ball, DJ Lagway, even Dallas Wilson are all going to be potential guys that you need to get bought into Florida with the new head coach. Lane Kiffin's an easy sell right there. But Lane's going to be in the middle of a college football playoff run. Now, I'm not to say Lane is not possibly thinking about the next job in the middle of that run, but I don't think a decision is going to be made for quite a long time if that is the next step for Ole Miss football in 2025. And the more time that you do not have a decision, deadlines start to pass. You lose a lot of opportunities in recruiting and in the portal, and a lot of different decisions are going to be made while Florida is looking around waiting for one guy to potentially just end up saying no. So with that in mind, I think there's two other names to mention before we move off of this. John Summerall out of Tulane, I think, is going to get a Power 4 level job. If anything, I think it's more than likely he gets an SEC job. We'll talk about the one that I think is more likely for him, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention John Summerall, a fantastic coach at Tulane who has done just incredible work. Everything that you read about John Summerall has been incredible. Same can be said for Alex Golesh. This one's an easy one at the end of the day. We're talking about the University of South Florida, a guy that has a lot of ties to that state. It'd be an easy change. The problem is for both of these guys, do we really think Florida fans are going to buy into another Group of 5 head coach? I don't think so. So I think you really start to look at Lane Kiffin. I don't see Marcus Freeman leaving. I don't see them being bought into a James Franklin, although I do think James Franklin, there's a really good job here that we're going to talk about here shortly. That would be a perfect fit for him. But I really think it's Lane Kiffin or bust for Florida. Getting some water for a second, people. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this on replay, I implore you, just give it a like, comment, sub. If you like talking about college football, you're at the right place. You found the right show. We're live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. We'll be live tomorrow, starting to talk a little bit more about some of these games that happened last weekend, as well as starting to look a little bit forward into some predictions, a little bit of a lighter week in terms of ranked matchups compared to what we saw, but we'll make sure we talk about every game that we possibly can. But if you want to hear about your team talked about, it's a simple type of some letters. You just have to put it in the comments, and I'll put it in my notes right here in this little notepad. I'll make sure to talk about it. So with that in mind, let's talk about some hot seats. So this is going to be one of the craziest coaching cycles of my lifetime and maybe your lifetime. These are big brands that are potentially going to have coaching opportunities open up. I thought when we saw the change of Washington open up because Alabama opened up, which led to Arizona opening up, and that coaching cycle was a big one. I thought Lincoln Riley leaving for Oklahoma to USC, that was a big coaching cycle. Right now, we're looking at Florida, Arkansas, Auburn, potentially LSU, potentially Michigan, Florida State, Penn State. These are all major brands that could be moving off of a head coach or already have moved off of a head coach, who are going to spend money to get a winning football program. We just saw, $50 million out the door for Penn State to get rid of James Franklin. We just saw large amounts of money to be spent to get rid of these guys. And this weekend turned up the heat on three main names. Number one, Brian Kelly. I'm surprised by this one. Now, we'll talk about it a little bit. LSU lost to Vanderbilt for the first time since, was it 1991? 1990. Vanderbilt's top 10 since 1940? If I'm remembering correct, World War II was going on. Vanderbilt's a damn good football program. They're a physical football program. Their offensive line dominated LSU. And as unfortunate as it is for LSU, there's pros and cons with this. You have set yourself a standard of national championships, not just making the playoff, not just borderline playoff teams, winning national championships. And in the Brian Kelly era, you have not made it to a college football playoff. You haven't even given yourself an opportunity to go win a national championship. And it all pointed to this year. Now, you would think that I'm talking about a program that is 4-3, 3-4, like a Florida, like a South Carolina, who is a top 15 team in the country. This is a team that is 5-2 with losses to Ole Miss and losses to Vanderbilt. They really haven't won anything of substance. This Clemson win that was presented as an incredible, impactful win has fallen off of a cliff in terms of its quality. It's spoiled. It's like milk that has been sitting in a fridge for over an entire summer with no power plugged in. It's not as quality as we thought it once was. And LSU right now is looking to its left and it's looking to its right with 2 SEC losses, and they have to go run the table by playing Texas A&M, the number 3 team in the country, and Alabama. And I don't think that they're going to end up even getting 1 loss. I think they could potentially lose 2. And that's for a multitude of reasons. This defense I still think is very good, but they still are very clearly susceptible to a running quarterback. Even further than that, this offense is not good. It doesn't have an identity. It is a flash in a pan. It's like oil on a pan. It sizzles from times. It pops you in the arm. You're like, oh, whoa, what was that? What was that? I just watched Caden Durham run for 40 yards down the field. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I just watched Zaire Thomas break one free. Whoa, whoa, whoa. They're back. But it only hits your arm a couple times and you're fine. Turn down the heat a little bit. You're not worried about it. And no one is actively worried about LSU's offense. Garrett Nussmeier, regardless of the injury, he's not going to succeed with that type of offensive line. Mind you, they just lost, I believe, their left or right tackle for this game against A&M. Have they beaten A&M every single year in Tiger Stadium? Yes, they have. But at the end of the day, who's going to be the better football team? Who's going to be the better coach football team? And at some point, you have to point the finger at a guy like Brian Kelly, a guy that they've already, when he got hired, were a little iffy on. Is this really going to be the guy that's going to take us to the finish line? And so far, he hasn't come close. Same could be said for Hugh Freeze. One of the craziest stats that I saw was the fact that Auburn since 2019 has not reached 7 wins. For visual watchers, I'm holding up the number 7. 7 for Auburn and the resources that are there. I understand it's not all on Hugh Freeze. I get that. He wasn't there since 2019. Auburn's had some internal struggles, very similar to Florida. This was supposed to be the year for Hugh Freeze where we gave him grace for the first couple of years. I mean, for the most part, we gave him grace for the first couple of years. He needed to rebuild this. He needed to get the NIL structure right. He needed to get the portal right. He needed to get X, Y, and Z right. But at some point, you have to be held accountable for whiffing on the portal at the most important position in football, which is the quarterback. Payton Thorne wasn't the guy when you hired him into being the position that you needed to be. But you could live with it and say, well, we get an opportunity next year, and you bring in Jackson Arnold, and people questioned it at the time, and people are questioning it now. Not really questioning it. They know Jackson Arnold's not the quarterback that's going to win you at least 7 games, which is not the standard for Auburn, but it's been 6 years. 6 years at this point. And you have not been able to get to 7 wins. You're more focused on golf than winning football games. I want a coach that is focused on winning football games, who is obsessed with winning football games, and Hugh Freeze is not obsessed with it. And I was of the idea that you couldn't get rid of him because of the money that is invested into this program and the players and the coaching staff. But at this point, the way that they lost football games this year isn't just on a referee and making a decision. You have a head coach who has been there for years, who is questioning the physicality and the culture of your own football program as if it is his first 3 weeks on the job. Inexcusable. Jordan-Hare Stadium means nothing at this point in terms of being scary. It's lost its meaning because this football team doesn't impose its will on you. It doesn't scare you because at the end of the day, they know they don't have a quarterback that is going to be able to push the ball downfield and make plays. You are wasting talent, and that is one of the most frustrating things as a fan that isn't even a fan of Auburn football. I am a college football fan, but to see guys like Cam Coleman and many others and Falk and Eric Singleton and the running backs, like all this talent on this roster just wasting a year. It's frustrating to watch. And I would say the same for Brian Kelly at LSU because that's frustrating to watch. On a different note, Mike Norvell, $100 million buyout. $100 million buyout. And they may pull the trigger. And it sounds like they are going to pull the trigger. What a fall off. I can't even. The numbers don't make sense on how many games he has lost in ACC play. The fact that they could pull a win against an Alabama team in week 1 and completely fall apart. Stanford. Yeah, the team that, if my memory serves me correct, went to war with Hawaii in the week 0 of college football. Man, what a long time ago that was. Stanford, that is being led by Andrew Luck and a head coach that isn't going to be there for another 6 months. Stanford, a team that is kind of dead in the water right now, and Florida State beat Alabama and still lost to them. You just sit there and you're flabbergasted. Like, there's so many adjectives for Florida State. And it's one of those things where you have such a disastrous season that you looked at 2025 and you're like, what is the expectation? And my expectation was maybe 7-5, 8-4. And you pray that because of the buyout and the amount of money that has been put into this program, that maybe next year would be the year that you can really return from your fall from grace. And I think there's a lot of things that as we start to dissect it, and I think with all 3 of these guys, we'll have a very specific segment of what went wrong. With Brian Kelly, they're going to go face A&M. I don't think if they lose that game, they're going to let go of him, but maybe more kind of see the season out. For Auburn at Arkansas, I've already placed money that Arkansas wins that football game and Hugh Freeze is gone by then. And Florida State's currently on a bye week. If they're not going to do it now, they may wait till the end of the season. I don't think it's a lack of if they want to get rid of Mike Norvell. I think it's more to the point that they have $100 million on this coaching staff and him personally, that it's going to take some money. And honestly, their coaching search, I looked at James Franklin, honestly, to just try to fix this program. And I think he is the perfect guy to handle the turmoil of what's going on with the ACC. But we're going to wait to do that pairing until these firings end up happening. I don't look forward to it outside of Brian Kelly. It's just, I cannot remember the last time I've seen these large of brands all making these massive decisions. So if you're a fan of a team that may not have the most money in the world and a good ball coach, I'd keep your head on a swivel. Let's talk about some actual games, though. We talked a little bit about Vanderbilt, LSU, but we have to talk about the Friday night matchup. Down goes Miami. We will only talk about winners on this show first. If you ain't first, you're last. And you're going to be last in being talked about number 2 in Miami because Louisville and Miller Moss and this coaching staff, man. Jeff Brom. Why isn't he talked about more in some coaching searches? Well, it's because it's Jeff Brom. He's at his alma mater. He's comfortable. He's getting paid good. And he's not a guy that's going to be sitting at a big fundraising event for NIL funding, speaking with a bunch of suits. You want a coach that wants to go win ball games? Jeff Brom is your guy. And they came in with a great game plan. I bet on Louisville to go win or cover at least by 6.5 points. And that was for a couple of reasons. The pressure rate was number 1 in all of college football. Louisville is a team that can get to the quarterback. What is the one weakness of Carson Beck? Pressure. And when you're not able to run the football like Miami was not able to do, you put all this weight on Carson Beck to make plays under pressure. It's not going to turn out well. And it ended up being 4 interceptions. This Louisville team is damn good, and this puts Miami in a very difficult spot with teams like Virginia, Georgia Tech, all not having a conference loss at this point. You're looking around and saying, Miami, even if you win out, could you be boxed out of an ACC title game, as they will not face Georgia Tech or Virginia for the rest of their schedule? And for Miami, I still see them as one of the best teams in the country, because if I were to criticize Miami heavily right now, I mean, if anything, they just show that they have a weakness. It was them and Ohio State. And right now, Ohio State's just kind of in an area by themselves. You could argue Indiana's probably in that tier as well. But Miami is still a damn good football team. But I've been harping on it for weeks at this point. Can we trust Mario Cristobal? Can we do it? Can we feel like he's going to be the guy that can execute on a Saturday? I still am questioning that. I'm still wondering, can we trust him? Can we feel comfortable that Mario Cristobal, national championship head coach, because that's the standard at Miami, that's the talent that's on this roster? Do you feel confident that he's the guy, kind of like how I felt about Billy Napier at Florida? Do you feel confident that he was going to be the guy? We got our answer there. Mario Cristobal, obviously, I think is a better ball coach than Billy Napier, but do you feel confident that he can rise up to the levels of a Ryan Day, Kurt Cignetti, a Mike Elko at this point? It's to be seen, because he got out-coached by Jeff Brom. Bama beat down on Tennessee. I wish I could be surprised. I really do. I wish I could be sitting here shocked or flabbergasted, but if you went and watched the preview show, I could have told you this, and I did. I said that Bama was the better football team, and they're just rolling at this point. If they were to drop a game, it was more than likely going to be last week. 4 straight ranked road wins. You have Ty Simpson. He's just an animal right now playing the quarterback position, the best quarterback in the country. Can they run the ball super effectively? No, it doesn't really matter when you have a quarterback playing this high of level of football. Tennessee, at the end of the day, their secondary is just not good enough. Their quarterback is good, not great. And they had to find a way to win this game, and there was maybe one path. If you were Doctor Strange, there was one scenario that Tennessee was to win this football game, and one of those did not. And that one specific scenario will not include a 98-yard pick six to end the half. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to win football games like that. And you're talking about an Alabama team at this point. I'm a Texas A&M guy. I would not even be mad if you had Alabama number 3 in the country. Alabama looks like a national championship contender. Alabama looks like one of the best teams in the country. This turnaround, I mean, what an anomaly week 1 was, because we have not seen an inch, a scratch, a hair, a sniff, whatever it is, of that Florida State Alabama team. We have not seen that. Now, if there was a moment for them to pop back up, it's going to be playing South Carolina in October and all that different things. But I just see this team as a freight train. 4 straight ranked road wins. Talk about the stretch. We're talking about at Georgia. You get a win against Kirby Smart. You still own them as Kalen DeBoer. Then you go play Vanderbilt, get your revenge. Then you go on the road to Missouri at 11 a.m., a certified trap spot with Tennessee on deck. You get a win there, and then you go beat down on your rival in Tennessee. That stamps yourself as a national championship contender, because I don't know what else would. We're talking about Notre Dame rolling over USC. Notre Dame ran the ball. If you watched the prediction and preview video, I told you this. My biggest concern for USC was, number 1, Can you replicate the performance that you had against Michigan in that rushing offense? Turns out you can't, because good Lord, Jeremiah Love put up some first-round talent tape. Jeremiah Love's a first-rounder, man. This isn't a surprise. This isn't a hot take. Sometimes 2 + 2 = 4, and this is going to be the tape that stamps him as probably a top 15, top 20 pick. That dude is going to be the heartbeat of a rushing attack, because Jeremiah Love runs with authority. He's explosive. His contact balance. He's got size, his athleticism. He's got the vision. The dude is just an incredible prospect. And you just saw him dominate and take over this game. The weather was gross. You had USC with no running back, no third string running back. And Jaden Maiava has some incredible moments, but he's not the talent that we've seen in previous iterations of USC and Oklahoma Lincoln Riley quarterbacks to take over the game. He definitely needs a better supporting cast. He can run the offense, I think, better than a guy like Caleb Williams. But when you don't have Layman Jordan, you don't have a dynamic rushing attack, you don't have the defense to fall back on, it's going to be a very difficult path. Jaden Maiava gave it the best he could. But at the end of the day, this is a Notre Dame team that I think is a college football playoff contender, and they are so damn talented that I think a lot of people kind of just forgot about them after they lost to Miami and Texas A&M, that this is a team you do not want to face in the college football playoff. This is a team that could potentially run all over you, and they have a more dynamic quarterback throwing the football than what we saw with Riley Leonard. Notre Dame's going to be a damn good football team. I still think USC is pretty damn good as well. We're going to talk about Texas Tech, Arizona State. UAB beats Memphis. Georgia beats Ole Miss. And Texas beats Kentucky barely. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday. If you like the Stadium Pulse, if you like college football, let me know down in the comments. We've seen extensive growth with the channel. If you like NBA, we have opening tip tomorrow. We have Dub's room. He does fantastic work over there. CEO Sports Show. Chris does incredible work over there. He'll cover a broad range of topics. If you kind of want a sampler platter of sports, go check it out over there. But this is a college football show. You're getting the best football content over here. So with that in mind, guys, thank you so much for watching the Stadium Pulse. And let me know your thoughts down below of the upcoming week. I will see you guys tomorrow around 5:30. And we'll talk about some more college football recaps and then a little bit into week 9. But with that in mind, guys, I will see you guys next time.
I try to be a good man, but life keeps beating me down. I never